Captured images of a human and extraterrestrials walking side by side near a massive UFO. Against a silent sky, an old recording device captured a shocking moment. A gigantic metallic structure, unnervingly sharp in its detail. It felt heavy, almost brooding, like a 1960 Chevrolet Impala sitting in an abandoned parking lot on a foggy night. But the shape of the craft isn't what takes your breath away. Look closer at the three figures walking together across it. One appears to be an ordinary man. The other two tall and distorted beings. They move calmly, naturally, like a research team surveying unfamiliar ground. There's no struggle, just a strange, almost impossible agreement between a human and something not of this world. The tension peaks when all three quietly turn inward, stepping down into a hidden hollow beneath the UFO and vanish. A meeting? Some kind of cosmic agreement signed behind the backs of billions of people. This clip is tied to a marshy stretch outside the valley's wetter southern edge, where a man filming reeds in shallow water slowly found a figure already chest-deep in the swamp. The body is narrow through the ribcage and abdomen, with long upper limbs hanging close to the sides and hands lowered just above the surface. Its shoulders are small, the neck is thin, and the skull rises in a smooth, pale shape that looks almost too clean against the muddy water. The skin appears taut and slick, reflecting light.
In the Middle Ages, a man was sold to a giantess for nothing more than a few salted fish. Her name was Orica, nearly 7 feet tall, with pale skin wrapped in strength, lips red as fire, and coal-black eyes. She was beautiful, but dangerous, like a predator waiting in silence. People said she only left her cave to trade dried fish for a night of pleasure. One day she raised her finger, pointed at a man, and said, "I want him." The chosen one was Ewan, an orphan, tall and reckless. He wasn't known for hard work. He was famous because he had broken more than one bed, and the whole village whispered about it. The villagers hesitated, but hunger won. Ewan didn't beg, didn't resist. He just smirked and asked, "Do you have a bed, or will it be against the stones?" A moment later, she threw him over her shoulder and carried him into the forest. For weeks, strange sounds echoed from the mountains. Low groans, bursts of laughter, nights that never seemed to end. The village prospered, the harvest richer than ever. But Ewan never came back. Until one gray morning, the cave spat out a torn shirt and a broken bed, still warm as if it had just collapsed under his body. That night, a whisper slipped through the stones. I made sure he couldn't stop. It wasn't a warning, it was an invitation, but no one dared to answer.
Where a man stepped out to check livestock after seeing a wide white glow settle over dry grass. In the middle of that light stood a figure so thin that the rib spacing showed through the torso. Its shoulders were narrow, the clavicle line tight, and the forearms hung unusually low, making the limb ratio feel immediately wrong even before the face became clear. The head was oversized, the eyes deep and oval with a weak reflective sheen, and the mouth looked more like a shallow crease than a muscular opening. Under the light, the skin appeared smooth and faintly damp, not glossy like plastic, but moist in the way bare tissue looks when cold air hits it. My own theory lands somewhere between biological and staged, and that is exactly why this clip bothers me. If it is a fake, somebody understood anatomy well enough to avoid the usual exaggerated monster mistakes.
The slight forward lean, the delayed shoulder response, and the way the body seemed to hold itself under gravity suggested a system built differently from ours, rather than merely deformed.
Hub. So check it out. You scan the QR code, right? There's all the snacks. There's no employees. There are robots in here. There are robots taking your order. Oh my goodness, and they got everything. They got medicine. They got, oh my goodness, I have to order something.
Believe what you see, believe what you see.
Hurricane Melissa is doing things storms aren't supposed to do. Melissa went from a mild tropical storm to a Cat 5 monster in 24 hours. Winds jumped from 70 to 160 miles per hour, and the Prime Minister of Jamaica said flat out, no infrastructure in the region can withstand a Cat 5. But here's what's strange. Melissa's barely moving. Life science says it's slower than a person walking. When hurricanes crawl like this, rainfall stacks up, which means more floods and landslides. And this is late October, way past hurricane season. Washington Post says only 4% of all hurricanes ever reach Category 5. Well, Melissa just did in record time. Jamaica is no stranger to storms and hurricanes, but Melissa could top them all, not just in strength, but in rainfall and destruction.
Here rain, my people in Kingston, Jamaica. Here rain. Lightning all across. You hear that? You hear that, my people? You think that's what we're doing? I feel rain and fall out here.
Today God revealed his most sacred name to Enoch. According to the third book of Enoch, when he was taken up to the heavens, he not only beheld the celestial heights, he was transformed. The most powerful angels guided him through places so holy that not even the cherubim dare to cross. And there, before the throne of the Almighty, the eternal glory surrounded him. God called him by a new name, Metatron, the Prince of the Presence. But the most astonishing moment was this. In that instant, God revealed to him the greatest secret of the universe, his true name. A name so powerful that, when it is heard, the angels fall prostrate, and all of heaven trembles. When that name was whispered into Enoch's ear, his very being was changed forever. He saw beyond time, and he understood the mysteries hidden since creation. And God gave him authority to lead the heavenly hosts and to record the deeds of all humanity. For only one who crossed the heavens and stood before God could bear the most sacred secret of the universe.
Massacred her own family, but was punished by God. Her name was Athaliah, daughter of Jezebel and Ahab, two of the most wicked kings of Israel, but she surpassed their cruelty. When her son, King Ahaziah, died, Athaliah shed no tears and took advantage of the chaos to act in an unexpected way. She ordered the killing of all the heirs to the throne of Judah. Her goal was clear: to seize power. She was the only woman to rule Judah, declaring herself queen, and reigned for 6 years, spreading fear and desecrating the temple of God. But one child survived. Joash, her grandson, was secretly hidden away by the wife of the high priest. For 6 years he was cared for, until the right moment came. When Joash turned 7, he was secretly crowned. The people rose up, and Athaliah shouted, "Treason!" But it was too late. She was executed in front of the very temple she had profaned. Type amen if you believe that. Just like in Athaliah's story, evil may rise for a time, but God's justice always prevails.
And more like it is thinking. The third image carries that strange weight. Framed in low-quality greenish video, the body is seated or folded inward, with one elongated hand pressed across the upper face and scalp. The skull is high and smooth, the eye large, dark, and glossy, and the mouth is a thin, depressed line set above a narrow jaw. Across the shoulders and chest, the skin looks stretched and slightly creased, revealing shallow grooves where bone and tendon shift beneath it. The upper arm is slim, the forearm longer, and the collar region is bony enough to read clearly even through the poor treads. The posture matters more than people admit. A staged creature is often built to lunge, threaten, or stare. This one does something stranger. It withdraws into itself. The hand placement suggests discomfort, shielding, fatigue, or sensory overload. Even if the clip were fabricated, Whoever designed that pose understood that stillness can feel more terrifying than attack. The trouble is that it shows several. They move low through dry grass in staggered bursts, keeping a rhythm that is shared without ever becoming perfectly identical. Their heads are rounded, their eye areas large and dark, and their limbs are thin enough that the angles at. The joints read clearly even through rough image quality, with the shoulders, hips, and spine rising against the surface in brief flashes when they cross the light. Their motion sits somewhere between crawling and stepping, as if each body is redistributing weight in quick, efficient transfers. One group treated the bodies like motion data and started drawing stride maps over screenshots, while another person argued the better comparison was not cryptozoology at all, but pediatric gait disorders filmed at terrible resolution. A wildlife rescuer wrote that the spine carriage made her skin crawl because it did not resemble any juvenile mammal she had handled. I have to admit, that note bothered me more than the alien.
Awan ini mah, awan hitam. Mudah. Mudah awan ini. Awan ini, awan hitam. Ah. Busa. Tahu? Ini busa ini. Bau ini. Tahu ini apa ini bau ini? Oh, banyak.
Juga banyak. What would you do if somebody fed you a steak that was pure mush? That's the inside of the steak. The whole steak just turns to mush. Y'all, there's a reason why I don't eat out. I just got a family meal from Roadhouse for my nephew because it's his favorite place in the whole world. I put that in my mouth and I thought I was going to hurl all over the place. Look at this steak. First of all, when I went to cut it, it just flopped. It's all cooked like differently, but look at the texture. It's like there's no sinew. What in the world is this? It was just mush in my mouth. When I went to bite into it, it was like mashed potatoes or pate and it has not necessarily a rotten smell, but like a funky smell. Like that's the inside of the steak. I don't think that's a steak. What was just sent to me? Like this is, of course, it was brought to me because I've been sick. So I'm not in a position to look at that. It's just mush. I'm not in a position to drive it back up there. So can somebody tell me what that even is? And why? Have you ever seen a steak that just mushed like that? I took a bite of it in my mouth. I almost threw up all over the place. So somebody tell me what it is that I got. Tag Roadhouse in the comments, and maybe they can help me understand what in the world it is that I got.
Garlic kills everything. There's a reason why a lot of cultures use it in their food is to prevent food poisoning. When I got the knee infection staph, I was like, all right, I'm just going to try to kill this with a bunch of garlic. I was taking like 10 or 15 garlic pills. After about 2 days of that, I shit out every single piece of shit inside my body.
So AI just called BS on 50 years of science, and it turned out to be right. This isn't clickbait. This is research by Emory University that just corrected decades of physics. The AI was studying dusty plasma, which sounds really boring until you realize dusty plasma is everywhere. Saturn's rings, moon dust, wildfire smoke, all of that is dusty plasma. And physicists have been using the same equations for this stuff for decades. Clean, simple math that everyone agreed on. Then this AI looks at the real lab data and goes, nope, this is all wrong. It found something unexpected. Particles in dusty plasma don't push each other equally as they should. So imagine two boats on a lake, where boat A's waves push boat B away from it with a certain force, but boat B's waves push back on boat A with a completely different force. And this is what the AI found. The forces aren't balanced the way physicists had expected. The AI also busted another physics myth. The bigger particles always carry more charge. Turns out it depends on the plasma's temperature and density. And of course, scientists tested everything the AI predicted, and it was over 99% accurate. Everything physicists thought they knew about dusty plasma got corrected by an AI running on a desktop computer. And if AI can rewrite the rules of plasma, one of the most common types of matter in the universe, what else have we completely gotten wrong?
For the one world government which still exists at the United Nations today. And they are, take God and prayer out of education. Number 2, reduce parental authority over children. Number 3, destroy the traditional Christian family structure. Number 4, if sex is free, make abortion easy and legal. 5, make divorce easy and legal, free people of the concept of traditional marriage. 6, make homosexuality the alternative lifestyle. 7, debase art, make it run mad. 8, use media to promote and change mindset. 9, create an interfaith movement without God. And 10, get governments to make all these laws and get the churches to endorse them. Let's just say the one thing not welcome at the United Nations is God.
Can anyone explain what's happening with my mirror? The spirals look 3D in real life. Did I accidentally open a portal, or what the heck? Let's find out if it's dust causing the weird spirals on my mirror. They're still there. And it's not a double-sided mirror, as some suggested.
In the Middle Ages, if a husband couldn't perform in bed, upper-class women could request an annulment of the marriage. If the husband had trouble fulfilling his marital duties, the wife could file a complaint with the ecclesiastical authorities, which would trigger a kind of investigation. Testimonies from close acquaintances would be gathered, but also some very particular medical tests would be conducted. One option was for midwives or other medical professionals to observe the couple for several nights during their most intimate moments. If these observations supported the woman's claims, the marriage could be annulled. The ecclesiastical authorities played a crucial role in this process, acting as judges who decided whether the annulment was justified. If it was determined that the husband truly was unable to fulfill his intimate obligations, the marriage could be annulled, allowing the woman to remarry. And in some cases, if the man couldn't perform and refused to accept the divorce,
Can you imagine? She once spent a night with 25 men and still wanted more. This is no myth. It's the story of Empress Messalina, wife of Emperor Claudius. She married him at just 15 years old, but entered history as the most depraved woman of ancient Rome. She threw wild banquets, wandered the streets of Rome in search of new thrills, and even competed with a professional courtesan to see who could take the most lovers in a single night. According to legend, Messalina won. She forced senators' wives to meet her desires, used the senators themselves as toys, and when she grew bored, she had them killed. But her most fatal step was marrying her lover, Gaius Silius, while Claudius was away. When the emperor discovered her betrayal, he ordered her execution. The soldiers came. Messalina seized a dagger, but she lacked the courage to end her own life, and in the end, the executioner finished it for her. Thus died the most debauched woman in Rome. But was this just an exaggeration by historians? Or was she truly so unrestrained? What do you think?
Pale ground, and a thin figure moving through them with the awkward certainty of something that knows the terrain. Its torso is lean and drawn tight over the sternum and ribs, the clavicles showing as hard lines beneath the skin. The arms hang long, the elbows sit low, and the head is smooth and bulb-like, narrowing into a face with recessed dark eyes. It does not look muscular, but it does look built for efficiency, like very little mass is being wasted anywhere on the frame. This is the clip that kept pulling me toward older folklore, especially the changeling tales from Ireland and Scotland, where the terror came from a body that resembled a person only until you studied its proportions too long. I am not saying the woods were hiding a fairy tale creature. I am saying the resemblance lands in the same nerve. The reduced nose, the hollowed stare, and the frail but deliberate posture create that same instinctive recoil, the same feeling that something almost familiar has gone badly off. The figure does not simply exist on camera. It reacts to the camera. The file is damaged and cuts early, but the surviving sequence shows a single body under a wide light source as the person filming moves in too close for comfort. Up near the lens, the anatomy becomes painfully specific. The rib line is visible under thin skin. The abdomen narrows sharply, and the arms hang low with fingers separated into clear, elongated segments. The man who recorded it later told a friend that the creature never splashed, never hurried, and never seemed surprised to be seen. That detail changed the mood around the sighting. People near him did not start with theories. They started with silence, then with nervous jokes, then with the practical question of whether anyone else had seen tracks at the bank. He reportedly stopped returning to that stretch of water after sunset and said the thing in the swamp felt calm.
We have a huge update on the Robert Brooks case today. This is where 13 New York State correctional officers stomped on him, choked him, and beat him to death, all while his hands were cuffed behind his back. And they didn't know that one of the body cameras was actually recording while on standby mode. And that's why the entire world got to see what New York State correctional officers do when they think nobody's watching. And finally, New York State correctional officers will be held accountable for their actions because one of those officers today pled guilty to manslaughter in the first degree. And he testified that his co-defendants all participated in this as well and that they lied about it in the aftermath. So he, on August 4th, right, his name is Christopher Walrath, will be sentenced to 15 years in New York State prison.
Oh, New York State prison.
Now, he'll serve a minimum of 12 and a half years, which I think is crazy.
Pale, slender bodies appear upright in a field near a gate, while a darker human silhouette remains closer to the camera. The taller figures have long limbs, narrow hips, and smooth, oversized heads that catch the light more than the rest of the body. Even through the blur, the shoulder width stays small, the arms hang lower than expected, and the gait looks measured rather than loose. The skin seems thin and reflective in patches, especially across the torso and upper thighs, while the faces collapse into dark eye regions and almost no readable nose. What fascinates me here is how wildly the community built theories around context rather than anatomy.
Cranium Glitch take over! Ow! These nuts are loud! Cranium Glitch is great! Melded faces radio! What? Melded faces radio! Let's go! These nuts are loud! Cranium Glitch is great! Melded faces radio, what?